there, Lindsay Walden back with you for this week's video blog. And today we are going to be talking about the concept of attachment theory and how the way that you attach to others in your life shows up in your relationship. It's really important to understand what type you are, and I really recommend taking one of the free quizzes online, if nothing else, to be able to figure out exactly what type you're showing up as. It's one of those things that you may not think it's a very big deal, but then you go to have a disagreement or a conversation, or you find yourself in some sort of a dilemma within your relationship. And more times than not, what I find in my practice is that the way you attach and sort of, figure out the world around you through your attachment style shows up in the way that you show up in your relationship. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about each type very high level, and then over the coming weeks we're going to dig into this even more so that you have a really good understanding of not just your type but also what your partner's type is, because the way that you two are going to interact with each other is going to be directly related to your attachment style. So let's get into the types. If you have a secure attachment type, this means that you're going to be very comfortable with being vulnerable, with having courageous conversations. You're not going to question the other person's intentions. You're going to feel very secure in who you are, how you feel, and how you show up in the world with a very confident air about yourself. I guess we could say that ideally, secure attachment is the way we would all want to strive to be, but this also means that you would have grown up in an environment where attachments felt secure and you were given a really good, healthy model for what relationships are sort of, quote, supposed to look like. Okay, so that's the secure attachment type. Okay, so now let's talk about the anxious-preoccupied type. This is going to be if you have maybe a more negative view of yourself, but then you think really positively of other people. It's almost like you're in this constant push-pull from an internal perspective where you aren't really feeling worthy or, maybe connected to your partner the way that you want to feel, but it's not because you're viewing them negatively. In fact, you probably view them very positively and you want everything to just be perfect and wonderful and you want to feel secure, but your own anxious thought processes and overthinking everything really get in your way of being able to do that. So it shows up in a more kind of anxious manner. Moving on to the dismissive avoidant attachment type or style. This is going to be where you actually do have a really positive view of yourself, but yet you have more of a negative view of other people, specifically people that you would be in a relationship with. And so what this can create is almost like let me keep people at arm's length. I don't want to connect too much because I think so highly of myself and I don't really give them the benefit of the doubt, almost like I'm going to get them before they get me sort of mentality. And again, this shows up in a way where you may feel sort of distant or dismissive of others and putting your needs first. Now, I want to be clear, it is okay to have a healthy level of selfishness within your own relationship with yourself. I'm not suggesting that you should get rid of that element, but it is something that if there's too much of that or there's too much focus on self and not enough focus on others and relationships, it might end up being a bit dismissive and avoidant in your attachment style. Okay, so then the fourth attachment style is what's known as the fearful avoidant style. And this is where you're going to find yourself kind of flip-flopping from hot to cold or back and forth. The reason is because you may not have a very great sense of your own self, and then also don't find yourself being very trustworthy of others. So it creates this dynamic where nothing feels secure. We could say that this is like the opposite of the secure attachment. It's where you're constantly questioning, waiting for the other shoe to drop, not feeling like you can trust trust in yourself enough to show up in a relationship in a healthy way, and then also not trusting your partner to show up in a healthy way that you can rely on. So it is basically the opposite of secure attachment. And what tends to happen is it starts to feel very overwhelming and a lot of times isolating because you feel so at odds with yourself and then at odds with others. So in recap, it's great to have secure attachment. And I do think that that's what most everyone is striving towards in the journey of life. But it is important to know where you're starting on that journey right now. So I do hope that you will take one of these attachment style quizzes. I have put a link to one of them in this blog or in the description of this blog. So feel free to click that link, see what type you come back as, and then that gives you a bit of a roadmap to follow so that you better understand yourself, how you're showing up, and then I would even suggest have your partner take the same quiz. See how you show up sort of in combination with each other, and it may give you some insight into what does and doesn't work sometimes in your relationship. And we're constantly in this process of evolving and growing and learning more about ourselves, and this could just be one more piece of that puzzle.